Welcome to episode 3 of the Bright and Ugly campaign. Now, if you remember from last time, our travellers were heading north towards the Landrel Manor, outside of the town of Naerven, about half a day on foot. Because most of the bounties are up that way, and the Landrels might have some work as well, and they are quite a wealthy family, so might be a good way of getting some coin. However, on their way out of the north gate of Naerven, they are accosted by 12 armed guards from the Jagan Empire, the Holy Empire from the east of Naerven. Now, they're all wearing their finely polished blue armour, but they look cautious and they're looking left and right as if they're searching for something in particular. On their way out of the gate, the Jagan soldiers say, "Oi, you lot! We're looking for a man by the name of Smiley. Have you seen the wanted posters? He's human, about yay high, auburn, greasy hair, constantly wears a smile on his face, hence his nickname." Now, everyone in the group is like, that sort of seems familiar, actually. They check their wanted posters and realise that one of the wanted posters they picked earlier was actually a poster of Smiley. And they start to put two and two together. The first time they went into the saloon, there was a human with greasy auburn hair with his face planted on the table as if he'd been drinking too much. That might well have been him, but they don't know for certain, so they tell the Jagan guards that they haven't seen him. However, they themselves now are interested, since Smiley is worth money. He's worth 150 gold. That's no small amount of gold in these parts. May not be a huge amount each, but it'd definitely be a start. So they postpone their journey while the Jagan guards wander around, and they remember the Dragonborn known as Greyzeg, who offered to give them information if they ever needed any information for anything. Of course, at a price. They find Greyzeg in his usual spot on the street, on the sidewalk, and approach him. "Greetings, travellers. How can I help you today?" They say, "We're looking for a man named Smiley. We hear he might have been in the town, but at least that's what the Jagan guards think." Greyzeg says, I might know something about that. It's gonna cost you though. 20 silvers. Now, that's quite a lot compared to what a lot of them have started with, and they need to be able to afford their food and water as well, so they go, "Can't you bring it down a little bit?" "Sorry, this is hot information. I can't bring the rates down, I need to feed myself." So they get away from Greyzeg, a little bit flustered, a little bit floundered in the middle of the dirt-packed street of Naerven. Oh, where are we going to go for information now? What are we going to do? So they decide, obviously, the best place is the saloon. So they head to the saloon, swing the saloon doors open. It's the middle of the day, so there's hardly any patrons there. There's still the old guy in the corner playing the honky-tonk piano, and there's the bald-headed, receding grey hair bartender with his eye patch. "You guys again." And in the corner, just at the side there, there's a few fancy ladies with their netted gloves and their corsets and wide open skirts. Eliwick is brave enough to go and speak to one of them. Eliwick wanders over, the little gnome scientist, and Sadie wanders over with her as well, the human gunslinger. And then they end up with a small retinue behind them. Eurasian goes over as well, the other human gunslinger, and they start asking the ladies for information. "Excuse me, have you lovely ladies seen a man by the name of Smiley?" And, of course, they don't know names so much, they know faces. So they show the ladies the wanted poster, and Smiley, one of them instantly recognises him. Jessalyn, her name is. She's a moderately tall human with locks of luscious red curls of hair, quite pasty skin, a few beauty marks across her face. She goes, "Why, I'd remember that face anywhere. did love a thing or two that I did with my tongue. The group are like, this is awkward. So, how long ago was that? Oh, just 2 or 3 nights ago. He was a regular. I think he had quite a thing on him. And the group are, yeah, that's information we don't really need to know. So, she understands the relevance of this information. She's a thrifty one. These women, they get paid, and it ain't always for the good stuff. Well, it is for the good stuff, but of a different kind. Well, I could tell you which way he went out the town. He seemed to be in a hurry a night or 2 ago. But, it's gonna cost you 10 silver. Well, that's half the rate that Greyzig had, because they went straight to the information source. So they were like, alright, it's gonna cost us anyway, we might as well pay up. So they paid her the 10 silver, and she said, well, he seemed in awful hurry to get out of the North Gate. So, if I were you, I'd start heading there, and there's nowhere else to go past the North Gate except for up past the Landrel Manor and towards the mountains. So, with a swift thanks, the group leave before... Oh, there seems to be quite a few of you there. I mean, if you've got a few minutes to spare and a little bit of coin, we could have a little fun. Yeah, thanks. We'll take you up on your offer later, yeah? Yeah. And they scoot out of the saloon as fast as they can before they get eaten alive. So they continue on their journey through the North Gate and into the wilds of the very edge of the frontier. The land seems to get more unkempt, like grass growing tall on one side, and then you can see the mountains in the distance, and even a vast forest in the northwest of there. It takes them about half a day, and that gets them just into evening time. After traipsing through the blistering sun, they've topped up on water so they're okay to go. They eventually find a manor that comes into sight. It's a moderate manor. It's not small, but I mean, it's probably small compared to some of those in like one of the major cities, but it's out there in the wilderness, and it is an obvious sight. But something's completely amiss. Relaf, with his eyes up high as he flies through the sky, he notices that there seems to be a group of ruffians trying to break into the manor, and there's a few dead bodies on the floor. Relaf immediately squawks, "Ah!" and lets everyone know. So, all the gunslingers, Eurasian, Sadie, Jesse and Wad draw all their weapons. Ziltorin gets his sword out, and they immediately head into the combat. Now these thugs, they are beefy, hench, huge Goliaths, orcs, half-orcs. They're all very chunky men and women, and they seem utterly thrilled. Yeah, come on, I'll fight you all. They charge the group. Ziltorin deftly charges ahead with his sword out, ready to counter them. He takes them in combat, while the others line up their shots carefully and pump them full of bullets. Even though there's only about 4 or 5 left, it takes quite a few bullets to take them down, so they're very tough, but they shout as they charge and as they die, "For Flubor the Cruel!" Ah! And with that, the last one dies, blood oozing out of him in every orifice that was created by bullets that pelted through him. The group immediately goes towards the manor to make sure there's residents that are still alive or if anyone's hurt, and they go inside. And Lady Landrel, she is absolutely taken aback. A high elf lady who is, "Oh, this is absolutely horrifying. I thank you so much for coming to my aid. My children are fine, but my husband, he was taken by those brutes. Please, you must get him back." And they can't think about asking for money at this stage. I mean, she's a wealthy lady, so they assume that there will be a reward. So without resting, they immediately find where to go. Where did the brutes go? What direction did they head in? Lady Landrel says, They headed northeast into the mountains. I believe that's where Flubor the Cruel is set up in some kind of fortress. Please, you must hurry. If anything were to happen to my dear, beloved husband, I just don't know what to do with myself." With the fight over and the lady of the house apparently unharmed, while they gather their gear together, the group sees a figure on the horizon coming from the west. Seems to be that of a human. Upon further inspection, as the human draws closer to the path, they realise it looks an awful lot like Smiley. They jump on him. Quite literally, they tackle him to the ground. And Ziltorin tackles him, Wad grabs him, and they tie him up with a length of rope out of Sadie's backpack. And they question him, and Smiley, all the while they jump on them, just and really freaks them out. Commander Wad sends chills down his spine, makes Eurasian angry. They mistreat him, they punch him, and kick him, because clearly he's got a bounty on his head, and the guards are looking for him. He spits out one of his teeth that Wad knocks out with a punch. Oh, that wasn't very nice now, was it? They question him about his bounty, and he refuses to remark on it. "No, I ain't gonna tell you anything about me, not while you've got me all tied up like this. I'll talk, you just have to cut my bonds first." And they are completely flabbergasted by his weird persona. However, they realise that they have to take on possibly some of the toughest outlaws and rescue the Lord of Landrel Manor, so they might need all the help they can get. Reluctantly, they cut Smiley's bonds because they took his weapon, so he's kind of useless anyway. And with him closely eyed by the rest of the group, they head northeast along the path into the mountains, where the lady of the house said the thugs were going to be taking her husband. That's the way they set off. Hours into the night, they are with Smiley, who just every now and then, really making the rest of the group uncomfortable. Until eventually, Relaf, with eagle eyes, spots a group of corpses on the floor, maybe even 50 of them. Some of them might have been the same thugs that took Lord Landrel, but some of them are wearing like a camouflage sort of leather that doesn't belong to anyone that they've seen so far. They decide to scan the bodies, see if they can identify Lord Landrel amongst them. Even Smiley helps, checking all the bodies. In fact, it is Smiley himself that finds a note. "Oh, found a little piece of paper here. It seems addressed to... Oh, I don't know anybody that finds it. Would you guys like to have a little look?" And give us that, weirdo. So, the group read the note. It says, "Your lord is safe. He is with me in the Grim Weald. Head northwest about a quarter of a mile to the fallen tree." And it is signed simply D. The letter D. Who could this be? Smiley goes, "I don't know." And they decide to head on towards the Grimweald, the forest on the western side of the mountains. So it's getting into the late hours of the night now, possibly even early hours of the morning. The cold is getting to them, shivering a little bit, having to keep themselves covered. Smiley doesn't seem all that affected for some reason. But they eventually get to the Grimweald, go through the opening, and they creep slowly through the woods. The sound of leaves crunching under their boots, but they're trying desperately not to make a sound. Brush up against branches. Smiley is just to himself all the time. And eventually, they come to a small opening where there is a fallen tree, and a tiefling is sat on it wearing the same sort of camouflaged leather armour, but his is like a more of a trench coat, the same as those of some of the thugs that died back there. Next to him, surprisingly, is what appears to be a high elf lord. Lord Landrel, Emeth Landrel himself. He appears to be unharmed. His clothes are ruffled and he's got bits of thorns and branches sticking out of his shirt and pants, and he seems a little shaken, but he seems mostly alright. 20 or so guards surround the group out of the trees around them with bows and guns and knives, and the group are like, oh, this is a bit dangerous. The tiefling introduces himself. My name's Dissonance, and he produces a harmonica. Now, you may have seen the bounty posters around Naerven, but I'm here to tell you that I'm innocent. I was framed by a lord who's paying off the law enforcement far south, and that's why I end up with a bounty on my head. I just want to clear my name and go back to living away from these wretched woods. That's all I want, and so I'm here with a peace offering. Lord Emeth Landrel here in the flesh, and he'll tell you that I've kept him watered and fed, and he's absolutely fine, unhindered. Isn't that right, Lord? Emeth goes, oh yes, Dissonance has been absolutely fine with me. He's not harmed me at all. In fact, he saved me from those thugs back there, so I owe him my life, really, in the scheme of things. And the group are like, So they go into discussions with Dissonance, like, so, you give us Lord Landrel, and you want us to spread word of your innocence, and possibly assist you at a later date when you need it. Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. Couldn't have put it better myself. After coming to sort of loose verbal agreements, the group leave with Lord Emeth Landrel and head back towards Landrel Manor, with Smiley in tow. They eventually get to the manor in the early hours of the morning, and Lady Ziliana Landrel runs out of the manor in her long silk dress to her husband's arms. Oh dear, Emeth, I thought I would never see you again. Oh, my dear Lady Ziliana. And the rest of the group are like, oh, I don't really know where to put my eyes right now. Let's look at Smiley instead. Okay, maybe let's not look at Smiley. Fucking weirdo. So, after a nice and happy reunion, they say, well, we are just a group of lowly travellers, so we could do with a little payment for this. I know we put our necks on the line, and I know it's cheeky to ask, but honestly, we could do with it right now. And Lord Landrel replies, of course, but without saying. In fact, here is some gold immediately. And he hands them each a small bag of gold. It's not much because that's all I have at the moment, but if also, for saving my life, I will offer you a small patch of land on the very edge of our frontier. Towards the Grim Weald there's just like a nice flat patch of land that you can take for yourselves. Oh, that's great. We can build our own houses and we can be neighbours, happy neighbours, great. So now, the group own land, so could they possibly be finally going up in the world, and are they going to tie Smiley up and beat him up again? I guess we'll find out on the next episode of the Bright and Ugly campaign.